So it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Bruce Beairsto. He's the retired superintendent of Richmond School District and is currently an adjunct professor at Simon Fraser University and an educational consultant. He is currently the vice chair of Science World in BC, a senior consultant for the Critical Thinking Consortium, a member of the board for Canadian Education Association, and the editorial board of Education Canada. Dr. Bruce has also worked alongside the BC Principals and Vice Principals Association on many educational endeavors, including Supervision for Learning. Please welcome him.
Thank you. So it's 4:15 and we're a little behind, and I'm well known for being long-winded, so Gayla has promised to move menacingly towards the stage if necessary. The invitation that I got here was to say something provocative that might generate discussion in relationship to the standard, and I didn't know if that was like a little TED Talk or a Dragon's Den, but I did get the time limit part, so I'll try to be brief, but hopefully within those few brief moments say something that you can chew upon at greater length. Usually you hear me bang on about management and leadership, bureaucracy and community authority and influence, and the difficulties of blending these together. But today I thought I'd do something different. I'm going to talk about dilemma, dialogue, and decision making. I could have started with diversity, but 4 Ds was pushing my luck. It's clear to us that a principal's job, like a teacher's job, is just an endless field of decisions. You have to decide to do things or not to do things, to prioritize things, and your actions, the sum total of your decisions, are then you. The sum total of your decisions is what you accomplish. And people make sense of the sum total of your decisions about what you do and don't do. So decision-making is important. And very often we cast this decision-making challenge as one of problem-solving. You're a problem solver. You're constantly solving problems. Well, there are many problems that have to be solved, many decisions made related to problems, but I don't think these are the difficult ones. The problem is something which you can fix. If you pay enough attention and gather enough information and talk to enough smart people, you'll figure out an answer, you'll fix the problem, it goes away, and you move on to the next thing. And there's great joy and satisfaction in that. But the really difficult things that you have to deal with as a principal or as a teacher, indeed the things you have to deal with in life, are dilemmas. And dilemma is something you can't solve. It's something that's not resolvable. It's a right meeting a right. It's two irreconcilable, equally important desires or values which come into conflict with each other. And it happens all the time. As a parent, it's an endless array of dilemmas in raising children, for example. And in classrooms, it's an endless array of dilemmas about what to do or not to do. Let me give you an example. Imagine, if you will, a class of 30 students, all of them different, which is to say every class in the universe. And a teacher who is reasonably capable and is getting on with things, but begins to experience some problems because some of the children aren't learning as quickly as others, and some of them aren't as interested in everything that everybody else is interested in. And so the teacher attempts to differentiate their instruction and to broaden the array of things and create some individuality and personalization within the context. But there are a few children who are even further out on the continuum of difference and find the classroom a very challenging place, and some of them actually have behavioral problems. They really don't fit into the schooling context very well, and they bear scars of trauma or perhaps neurological issues which manifest themselves as occasionally violent behaviors. Not just disobedient, but extremely disobedient. And perhaps an adult has been assigned to help them, but the adult is getting stressed too because the child's outbursts are becoming more aggressive. They scratch, sometimes they kick, or they headbutt, or they bite. And the adult that's working with them doesn't think that's fair. I need a safe workplace. And so the union president is called in, and WorkSafe does a study, and the principal is called into this emergent situation and asked to do something. So what does one do? Now, this isn't hypothetical, of course. This is a frequently recurrent situation. Only the details vary. Well, what do you do as a principal? Is this a problem? Well, it's problematic. But you can gather all the information you want and talk to all the smart people you want and ponder as long as you will, and you will not find the answer. You will not find the thing to do, because anything you choose to do will be inadequate. It will solve part of the problem, but not all of the problem, and it'll maybe make some other part of the problem worse. And the reason that this is so difficult is it's not really a problem. It has problematic dimensions. And the problematic parts you should strip away. Fix the problems if you can fix them. If there are problems there, get rid of them. When you are finished, you will be left with an equally complex situation because it's a dilemma. What you have is competing interests, competing rights, competing responsibilities, competing priorities. The parent of the child who is presenting the behavioral difficulties will have a very particular view of what's going on, what's necessary, and what should be done. The parents of other children will have a perhaps different view. The children themselves will have different views. The teacher has a certain perspective and may feel that the situation is untenable and that they're highly stressed and somebody should fix it for them. The principal may feel it's not fair to land it on me, what do I know? And the EA wants somebody to take away the problem. Nobody can fix this. You can get a cast of thousands and have one of those great big meetings and write up an IEP and follow it to the... It is a dilemma. This can't be fixed. It has to be managed, responded to, respected. You have to learn from it. You have to dive into it, and that's the work. That is the work of an educator. That is the work of a principal. Problem solving, any schmuck can solve problems. Dealing with dilemmas with the kind of wisdom and insight and guidance that makes communities stronger and teaches others how to deal with dilemmas and builds our capacity as individuals and as a collective, that's the work. That's the really hard part, is the dilemmas of life. So what does one do about a dilemma? Well, as I said, the first thing is to strip away the problem parts, gather your information, find your experts, do what can be done. But when you are left with the hard core of dilemma, the answer to dilemma is to be curious. It is about dialogue. When a group of people are encountering a dilemma, what they need to do is share with each other as clearly as possible their understandings, perceptions, needs, and priorities. They need to reveal their thinking to each other. They need to help each other to see things in as many and as divergent and complex and complementary ways as possible. This is a dialogue. Dialogue is characterized by revealing your thinking, not by convincing somebody to think like you, that's a debate, not by trying to problem solve even. It is simply a matter of sharing and revealing your perspective so that everybody becomes more richly informed about the complexity of this situation. Dialogue is a divergent experience. It actually increases the complexity because you become more wide awake, more acutely aware. Now, after you have diverged and enriched and broadened yourself and perhaps begun to feel a little bit more overwhelmed because there's even more dimensions here than you had realized, eventually, after all of the dialogue, there is a decision to be made. You cannot be paralyzed by analysis. You cannot stand in one place being pondering and curious your whole life. You eventually have to do something. And the challenge of decision-making for someone who understands they're dealing with a dilemma is they have to make the decision in the full light of the fact that they don't know what to do, and with a certain knowledge that they don't fully understand the situation, and there aren't enough resources to do what everybody wants. So now you are faced with a convergent issue. You diverge to understand the dilemma through dialogue. Now you must converge to a single point of decision. Yes or no. In or out. That single point of decision is essential, and if you cannot move from the divergence of curious inquiry to the convergence of a decision, then you are paralyzed. Having moved to a decision, which may involve convergent strategies such as debate or problem solving, find a range of alternatives, list the pros and cons, make a collective decision, and do it. Having passed the point of decision, now what you have to do is avoid the trap of decision making, which is rationalization. You say to yourself, I had no other choice. I followed the policy. Circumstances dictated. This is never true. Every decision is a choice. You always have a choice. You made a choice. The challenge is to own it, to explain it to people for all of its flawed humanity. Often, after reaching a point of decision, people spend a lot of time defending themselves against criticism. But really what you have to do as a principal is say to yourself and to others, this is what I decided, this is the basis upon which I decided, this is my rationale and my intention. And then fully admit to yourself and to others that that's probably wrong. It is certainly imperfect. And a day later, a week later, a month later, when you knew more or you learned more, you would probably do it differently. But right here, right now, I did what I did the best that I could, and here's why I did it. Then open yourself again in a divergent way to dialogue, to understanding how people saw that, how they respond to it, what are the circumstances. And having emerged again into that curious, divergent space of dialogue, accommodating diversity, you move forward until you get to the next point of decision. This very complex dance of living with dilemmas, comprehending them through a divergent strategy of dialogue, coming to a decision through convergent strategies of debate and problem solving, and then not getting stuck on your decision, but taking it as a point in time where you did your best, but you fully accept the fallibility of your own knowledge and actions, moving on to continue to learn. To me, that's the challenge, or one of the key challenges. Being an administrator. It's also one of the key challenges of being a teacher. It's also one of the key challenges of being a parent, but in this context, it's administration that we're talking about. So how does one build that into standards? Standards, as I understand them, are statements of expectation that we hold for each other. They are the high standards of conduct that one is called to as a member of the profession. But they are also a template against which we can plan for our own growth. In this particular context, the growth that is required is not a growth in skill. Skills are important, right? You do have to develop a skill set, but really the development that is required here is a development of being as much as doing. It is becoming the person who can stand in the middle of that chaos and that diversity and that complexity, who can wrestle with that dilemma with integrity and resolve, but also with humility. Come to a decision, explain it, and model for others the way that we have to live in this very complex, diverse world of ours with integrity and purpose. If you get stuck on the resolve part, then you become just sort of belligerently connected to the path that you've decided is right. That's not invitational. If you spend all of your time being curiously confused and not coming to a decision, you didn't help anybody. But if, as an administrator, you can model for others an ethical, honest, open encounter with the complexity of the situation that always presents itself in schools, talk to them about how to experience it, share with them the feelings of it, and model for them a way of encountering it, then you spread that capacity. And as you spread that capacity, you grow community, and as you grow community, we collectively are able to do better. 8 minutes? It's not hostile yet, it's just okay. So a friendly reminder from off stage. So that was a grand sprint through, but remember, I wasn't here to answer the question, I was only here to provoke. And my provocation is this: whatever you can do in developing standards around the knowledge that is required and the skills that are required, this is very good. But within the standards, there also has to be the expectations of the behavior of the being that the person who is an administrator should represent to everyone. And I think that pondering for a while the dilemma-laden experience of administration, the role of dialogue in clarifying dilemmas for us, the way to encounter dilemmas without being paralyzed, to come to a point of decision and act as one must, but then to immediately retreat into the curious space of recognizing and living with the dilemma, is an essential art, skill, attribute of the administrator. It is not something that most people come to naturally. It is something that has to be nurtured and developed and modeled and supported and encouraged and acknowledged. And if you can build something like that into the standards, then I think that will have been a significant addition. I was asked to provoke, and I hope that I have.